And she went against the governor of Texas, opened her salon, and ended up in jail.
I'm not going to apologize for trying to earn a living and giving my hairstylist an opportunity to feed their family.
Shelley Luther explains why she fought back. Plus, host of No Spin News, Bill O'Reilly, is back and talks about media bias.
Disney, Comcast, CBS, CNN, they want to make money.
And I'm talking one-on-one with the RNC's new senior communications advisor of black media affairs, Dennard. That and so much more. By the way, if you made them billions, I had to make them at least hundreds of millions or something. Maybe. I don't know. I can't claim billions.
I carry you.
Right now in America, this week. Welcome to America This Week. I'm Eric Bolling. This week I'm coming to you from inside Stars and Strikes. It's a bowling alley in Summerville, South Carolina. They're all over the South, in Tennessee, Georgia, the Carolinas, and Alabama. And right now, some are open and some are closed, like this one, depending on the state they're in. For over a year now, you, the viewers, have made this show the fastest-growing political talk show broadcast across the nation, and I promise to continue to fight for you and ask those tough questions in the weeks and years ahead. The media had a bad week this week, folks, and that's not breaking news these days. It seems the media has gone from reporting the facts to distorting the facts. Journalism is supposed to be about delivering facts, like an umpire calling balls and strikes in a baseball game. You all remember baseball, don't you? It shouldn't matter which team was up to bat. The strike zone is the same for both teams. Armpits to the knees and the width of home plate, which is, by the way, 17 inches. It gets dangerous when reporters and shows portray themselves as journalists, umpires, and then inject opinion or bias into their stories by selectively editing clips and holding back facts or data, essentially like an umpire squeezing the strike zone for the home team. I was watching 60 Minutes last week, and I literally yelled at the TV watching a story about the origin of COVID-19. The reporter claimed that COVID-19 came from a natural transmission from animal to human, and therefore it couldn't have leaked from a lab. Now, that's not a binary choice. Both could be true. The virus could have gone from animal to human and then leaked from the China lab. But why didn't 60 Minutes ask their experts that question? I did. Is it possible that this may be a leak from that laboratory by accident, right? By accident, but maybe the cause of this?
Well, when you're dealing biologically, anything is possible. Let me tell you why that's extraordinarily unlikely.
Well, sir, couldn't it come out of a laboratory, human to animal, jump species in the laboratory setting?
You know, there is never impossible that happened, but it is extraordinarily unlikely. And
I asked it again. Are you confident that what we were learning, what we've heard about patient zero in China was a movement from animal, likely bat, into a person? Do we know patient zero? Do we have confidence with that?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the sequences, this virus has been heavily sequenced. That's how we're working on vaccines.
So what 60 Minutes did isn't just sloppy journalism, it's yellow journalism. Later in the week on MSNBC, Chuck Todd got caught deliberately altering a story about General Flynn. Documents released by the Director of National Intelligence showed several of President Obama's intel heads knew that General Flynn was not a Russian asset and that in 2016 he was likely investigated illegally. Immediately, the word Obamagate went viral in a huge way. Looks like FBI Director James Comey, CIA Director Brennan, NSA Clapper, and potentially Barack Obama may have been lying to the media and the public so they could continue to work their way through the Trump campaign and transition team in search of a crime. Now, that's illegal, folks. In America, we investigate crime, not investigate in the hopes of finding a crime. Sensing the bad news for the home team, Chuck Todd selectively edited comments made by Attorney General Bill Barr to make Barr look bad. In essence, Chuck Todd made it seem like AG Barr ignored the rule of law and simply took it upon himself to drop the Flynn case. When the full transcript came out and AG Barr had, in fact, referenced the rule of law for his decision, Chuck Todd was caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Now, get this. Instead of just admitting to the bias, Chuck Todd denied it was his fault. Watch.
We did not edit that out. That was not our edit. We didn't include it because we only saw the shorter of 2 clips that CBS did air. We should have looked at both and checked for a full transcript.
Now, did you hear that line, exonerating himself? It was not our edit. Of course it was your edit, Chuck. It's your show. And your producers edited Bill Barr's comments and placed it on TV. NBC aired it. Just admit it, Chuck Todd. You selectively edited the facts to promote your pro-Obama bias. Now, folks, a free press is protected by the Constitution. The very First Amendment guarantees that. We need the press to be free in order to keep an eye on tyrannical governments on both sides of the aisle going forward. Full stop. Unfortunately, media bias hides behind that same First Amendment. You just have to keep a close eye on it and call it out when it rears its ugly head. I'll continue to call those cockroaches out when I see them. And boy, oh boy, there sure are a lot of them around here lately. Georgia Congressman Doug Collins has also been outspoken about the Obama administration unfairly targeting General Michael Flynn. He joins us now. Congressman, thanks for being here. Sir, let's start off with the, I guess, the hashtag that's all the rage right now, Obamagate. What do you know? What do you think Obama knew, and when did he know it? Let's put it that way.
Well, I think he knew a lot more than what's being let out in the public right now, and I think if he had one thing, he'd have gone back and tried to start the last week over, because he has gotten embroiled in this more than he ever thought he would. But it's not surprising. Many of us who have been talking about this, you have other half, we've been talking about the fact that this went to upper levels of the Obama administration. The corruption as far as the politicalization of the DOJ was something that we were seeing from early stages, even into the Clinton email investigation, if you want to go back that far. So it was sort of surprising to me that Sally Yates said that she was surprised at how much President Obama asked about or knew about General Flynn in that meeting in the Oval. But remember, I believe it was also, Biden is a part of this. There's just a lot of problems here, but it's confirmation of what many of us have been saying for a long time, that corrupt cabal was out to get the candidate president and then the president, and they were doing everything they could to make it happen.
Yep, you're 100% right. We talk about James Clapper, the DNI. We talk about James Comey at the FBI. We talk about the CIA, Brennan. And then you talk about what you just pointed out. Yeah, Obama likely knew. It looks like he was briefed and wanted to be briefed on the facts that not only Russia wasn't involved in getting Donald Trump elected, but the fact that they were going to continue an investigation into the Trump, I guess, senior advisors so that they can dig some dirt up. Importantly, Biden, who wants to be president, had to be in on those discussions, no?
I would think he would have to be. I mean, he was involved in these. He was in the meetings with this. Remember, this gets even more. I mean, as we're peeling back the layers of this and what we have seen is, especially in this Flynn, McFarland, all these cases, they were actually using cases that should have been closed because there was nothing there. Strzok said, oh, I'm glad this case on Flynn is still open. We're going to keep it open because it gives us an end to do this. It just goes back and confirms the text messages, the emails that we had uncovered in previous discussions that this insurance policy was the fact that they were going to be there intact in this team at the FBI and DOJ to attack this president internally. We've got to remember, though, that if they could do this at this level, they could do it at any level. They were acting more like deputized street thugs more than they were anybody else. And it's just very concerning, but I'm glad we're seeing it unfolded. Attorney General Barr is doing this, and Durham, I think, is just sitting out there waiting to bring forth the issues that he's found as well.
Congressman, in America, we investigate crimes or alleged crimes. We don't investigate to turn up crime and look for crime. That in itself is the definition of a witch hunt. Looks like what they were up to. Sir, you're Congressman Collins, but you want to be senator from the great state of Georgia. Talk to us about one of the stories that's really been bubbling up lately. The jogger who was killed, the unarmed African-American jogger who was killed, who was shot by 2 men with guns. Tell us, what you know, what you hear.
Well, what we have said all along is when I saw that video, I said it was just appalling, it was disgusting, and it was a criminal act. This should have never taken this long to come to light. It should have never taken a video to get public before something was done about this situation. Nothing about this is right. I'm glad to see that the Attorney General here in Georgia has asked the DOJ for help. I'm also glad that we're finally seeing indictments made down here. This is no one should have to go through this, no matter what the backstory is. And as we go forward, that'll come out. But there should never have been a time lag in something that is so graphic and so much a part of a video that people can actually see. That's the disgusting part to me.
You know, and sir, I think the issue is what took so long. You mentioned that, but was there any sort of cover-up going on within, I don't know, internal investigations within the police department, or was the prosecutor? I'm trying to figure out what takes so long. I mean, an unarmed man being shot by two men with guns, it would take a lot to make that justifiable.
Oh, I would have to agree with you, and that's why I've said it's, it appears to be a criminal act from the start, and it is, and I think that's why the indictments came. The question is did their relationship with the DA's office, did the father, I think's relationship, and others, that was just no sense in this, and that the timing and any communications needs to be fully investigated among the whole thing.
All right, Congressman Collins, thank you very much for your time. Again, congratulations, Georgia. Everyone made a big stink about reopening the state of Georgia, and look what happened. You opened it up, and nothing really happened so far. Sir, thank you. Appreciate your time. Congressman Doug Collins.
Great. Thanks much, Jake. Appreciate it.
All right, joining me now is Attorney Kelly Hyman. Kelly, I just want to bring up some of the information that came out this week. We've been unmasking people who may have known that General Flynn was being investigated, likely illegally. One name pops out, jumps right out of the page at us, Kelly. Joe Biden. Joe Biden, turns out, was at least in the loop of people knowing that General Flynn may have been, I don't know, improperly investigated. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think this information just came out, and so we're going to have to kind of see what, Biden says and Biden's camp's position on it. And so ultimately, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens on this issue and what they say about it.
So in a bigger picture, then, let's take a step back. Obamagate trended on Twitter all week long, and there's some 4, 5, 6 million mentions of it. And here's the issue. If Brennan knew that likely General Flynn was not a Russian asset, and if Clapper knew, and if they all knew, the intel departments for Obama knew, then what were they in fact doing investigating Carter Page, investigating Papadopoulos, investigating Manafort, investigating General Flynn, investigating our good friend K.T. McFarland? What were they doing? Was it not, in fact, a witch hunt after all?
I think it's, too soon to tell, and I think we're making a lot of assumptions. I mean, I think this is breaking news, and so we kind of have to see how it unfolds. But I think it's important not to make any premature decisions on assuming different facts that we don't know yet of what exactly happened. So I think we need to hold on this and ultimately find out what happened.
But Kelly, what we can do, though, Kelly, we can talk about the rule of law. We can talk about whether or not it's okay that, I think one of the biggest issues is that this whole thing was predicated on the FISA court. So the FBI went to the FISA court and said, we want to investigate Trump. Look, we have the Steele dossier as evidence says he's been playing around. There may be some contact and some ties with the Russians. We now know that Steele dossier was fake. It was garbage. And the FBI we now know also knew it was fake and it was garbage. Is it time to revamp the way the FISA court is allowed to spy on Americans, not foreigners, but on Americans?
Right. Well, I think the rule of law is very important, and I think it's really important that we abide by the rule of law, because that is something that our president, unfortunately, does not do on a daily basis. And so that being said, I think it's always important to evaluate the situation, especially about the court, and see if we can make a determination that it'd be more beneficial to do different things differently. And so there's always room for improvement from that standpoint as well. But I would kind of disagree with you on some of the assumptions that are made, and there wasn't proper evidence. The court did believe that there was sufficient evidence and base it on that.
All right. Well, that remains the issue, and we're going to, as we go forward, we'll know more about who knew and when they knew. It looks like Biden's name is now in that mix. Just waiting for that Barack H. Obama, his name, to turn up on one of these documents as well. I say thank you to Kelly Hyman. Thank you, Kelly. Shelley Luther is the owner of Salon a la Mode in Dallas, Texas, and made headlines after defying Governor Greg Abbott's orders and reopening her salon. It even landed her in jail for 2 days, but she was released, and Abbott changed his orders. Shelley, thank you for being here. Let's start with what happened. I'm blown away in America that a small business owner decides to open her business and ends up going to jail for nothing other than open their doors. Tell us how it went down.
Well, I mean, it's crazy actually what happened, and I think that what happened is good because it kind of woke America up, and this is something that needed to happen, so I'm okay with it.
So the way I understand it went down is that you were given several warnings, close your shop, and then when you didn't, they said they sentenced you to something like you were sentenced to 7 days, but they were going to commute that sentence if you apologized. Tell us why you didn't apologize.
I didn't feel like I owed him an apology. I'm not going to apologize for trying to earn a living and giving my hairstylist an opportunity to feed their family. He did not deserve an apology, and the way he acted was actually just cruel.
And when you say he, you're talking about Governor Abbott?
No, I'm actually talking about Judge Moyer.
Okay, so Judge was just simply administering the rule of law that Governor Abbott. Now let's be clear. And Governor Abbott has been a friend to the Trump administration. Everyone's trying to get the country reopened. People are trying to get Texas reopened. But at the end of the day, it was an Abbott law that was put into place. What do you say to the governor?
Yeah, you're right. And he went back and actually revised the law to make it to where I think incarceration was not part of the punishment that they could use anymore. So, I mean, at least he was able to revise that and admit he was wrong with that.
Yeah, thank goodness for that. That is absolutely insane to put someone in jail, small business owner, in jail for nothing more than opening her doors. Senator Ted Cruz flew to Dallas and got a haircut. Tell us about how that went down. And by the way, good for him and good for you for cutting his hair.
Well, actually, I didn't cut his hair. I just own the salon. I'm not a stylist, but that was really amazing for him to take time out of his very busy schedule to acknowledge us in our little salon and kind of make a stand with us and show that he was in support of what we were doing was absolutely incredible.
Did you trim his beard up a little bit? It gets a little raggedy once in a while. COVID beard.
He was wearing a mask, so we just left that alone. You have to wear masks to go in my salon, so.
That's a good point. Couldn't get to the beard. Gotcha. Very quickly, tell us what's the outreach to you? Has it been hostile by people saying you should have stayed closed, or has it been in support? Final thought.
I mean, it's definitely 95% in support. As you know, that I received a lot of money, so I was able to start a nonprofit, and it's called Courage to Stand, and it's at couragetostand.com. And if people want to go there and support more, we just left Laredo, and we gave the girls that got arrested in Laredo some money and had a rally to open up Texas. So that was great today to be able to share that with them.
Well, we're going to wish you congratulations and good luck with your new initiative. We really appreciate your time with us on America This Week. Thank you. And he's the host of No Spin News and my good friend. Welcome back, Mr. Bill O'Reilly. Bill, let's take a listen. Thank you for joining us. Let's take a listen to Chuck Todd. I did a monologue on how the media is now no longer journalists. They're opinion spinners. Let's take a listen to Chuck Todd first. Here's what he laid down on his show.
You brought up Bill Barr. Peggy Noonan, I want you to listen to this Bill Barr answer to a question about what will history say about this. Wait till you hear this answer. Take a listen.
When history looks back on this decision, how do you think it will be written?
Well, history's written by the winner, so it largely depends on who's writing the history.
I was struck, Peggy, by the cynicism of the answer.
And now, Bill, let's take a listen with context. And again, this is why selective editing is so effective. Chuck Todd cut off the context of what Bill Barr's comment was. Take a listen to Bill Barr's full comment.
When history looks back on this decision, how do you think it will be written?
Well, history's written by the winner, so it largely depends on who's writing the history. But I think a fair history would say it was a good decision because it upheld the rule of law. It upheld the standards of the Department of Justice, and it undid what was an injustice.
Yeah, now, Bill, Chuck Todd apparently kind of didn't apologize, said he didn't really see the full clip before he aired it. What do you say to that?
I think that's true. I said that on Monday, that Todd would not have done that because he knows he would have gotten caught and he'd be in the kill zone. So NBC News, which is a dishonest news operation pretty much across the board, one of the producers did it. Todd, of course, too lazy to check the transcript, which was available, but Chuck's not going to do that. Put it on, and now Chuck gets hammered. But I don't believe that he did it knowing that they cut off most of Mr. Barr's answer, because Todd's too shrewd for that. He wouldn't have put himself in a kill zone, but NBC did it. I don't know if the producer was fired, but he or she certainly should have been.
Well, but in the non-apology apology that Chuck Todd delivered after he got caught, he said it wasn't him. Yeah. He also said it wasn't our producers that did it. I'm going to call BS on that big time. It had to be either you, Chuck, or your producer who said, let's leave the end of that clip off, unless they're just so lazy that they just took whatever was on NBC, on the file and said, oh, we'll take it. Sounds good. Fits our narrative, and plug it in.
It doesn't matter if they're lazy or corrupt because they're on Meet the Press. And they took a soundbite from CBS that CBS ran in total. So all they had to do was look at what actually happened. So look, the important thing here is that NBC is not an honest purveyor of news. It's not. Everyone in the business knows that. Comcast doesn't seem to care or actually wants them to be dishonest because it's time after time after time after time. Now, Lester Holt is an honest man, and he's the last line of defense in NBC News, but the rest of them, come on. I mean, this is why American journalism is destroyed, has fallen apart.
So, Bill, the other big story, obviously, this week is Tara Reade's testimony interview that she gave to Megyn Kelly. And Tara Reade basically said, look, I told everyone Joe Biden is at fault. He sexually harassed me. Here's the question. Does the media treat Joe Biden differently than they treated Kavanaugh? Now, we know they do, but why is that? How can they do it in plain sight for all of us? Help us figure out, should Joe Biden be held more accountable than he's being held by the media?
Okay. So this is all about money. It's not about women or anything else. The left-wing media, which is 80% of the national presentation, only reports to people who believe the way they do. They hate Trump. They want liberalism. They don't like any Republicans. That's who they program to. So by ignoring anybody's accusation against Joe Biden, they don't hurt themselves because their audience doesn't want to hear any accusations against Joe Biden. Or conversely, the Fox audience doesn't want to hear accusations against Donald Trump. All right? People want their beliefs reinforced. But if you're in the business of journalism and you crucified Brett Kavanaugh on very flimsy allegations and you ignore the Biden story, you're corrupt. That's what you are. So it goes back to the Chuck Todd thing. It's just massive corruption.
Well, that's it, Bill. And you know, there used to be a line between journalism and opinion. I don't think there's a line anymore at all, especially when they're playing games like what they cover, how they cover it, and how they selective edit.
Look, Bolling, Disney, Comcast, CBS, CNN, they want to make money. They don't care about anything else. These are the corporate moguls. They want to make money. All right, Fox 2. I made them billions of dollars. I know. I made Fox News billions with a B of dollars. They want money. They're not interested in fairness or helping the nation or getting out of the pandemic or anything like that. This is, again, corporate boardroom. And that filters down into the newsroom.
Yep. Yeah, that's unfortunate, Bill. Unfortunate indeed. I'm going to say thank you. By the way, if you made them billions, I had to make them at least hundreds of millions or something. Maybe. I don't know.
Now,
I can't claim billions.
I carried you.
You carried me. You did. I just want to make a point here. If you can see the background, I'm in a bowling alley. I'm not in an O'Reilly alley. I'm in a bowling alley. Let's leave it right there for the record. That's journalism right there, Bill. Fact. Bowling alley. Bill O'Reilly, everybody. Straight ahead on America This Week, a bombshell interview with the woman who accuses Joe Biden of sexual assault. Our panel debates the timing and motivation of the accusations. This week, journalist and author and my personal friend and former colleague Megyn Kelly sat down with Tara Reade. Reade says Joe Biden sexually assaulted her when he was a senator. Ms. Reade spoke in detail about what she claims transpired between her and Biden. Now, we need to warn you, some people may find the details disturbing. Take a listen.
I don't know if I was in the first floor or the basement, but there's corridors that lead to the Capitol and that kind of thing, and I was trying to catch up with him. And
this would have been on a weekday?
Yes, and I remember like my heels, like my legs hurting a little, and like, you know, there was just from walking really fast. I remember things like that. And then I saw him at a distance. He was talking to someone, and they walked away the other direction. And then he greeted me. He remembered my name, and then I said, you know, here you go, Senator. I handed him the bag, and it happened very quickly. I remember being pushed up against the wall and thinking the first thought I had was, where's the bag? Which is an absurd thought, but that's what I thought was, where's the bag? Yeah, because I was handing it to him. And he had his hands underneath my clothes, and it happened all at once. So he had one hand underneath my shirt, and the other hand, I had a skirt on, and he like went down my skirt and then went up. And I remember I was up almost on my tippy toes. And when he went inside the skirt, he was talking to me at the same time, and he was leaning into me. And I pulled this way away from his head, I remember. And so he was kissing my neck area, and he whispered, "Did I want to go somewhere else?" in a low voice.
Now we want to bring in political commentator Amisha Cross and former Deputy Assistant to President Trump, host of America First on Salem Radio, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Let's discuss that interview a little bit, guys. I'm going to go to you first, Amisha. Give us your general sense of what Tara Reade, was she believable? What was your takeaway from the Megyn Kelly interview?
I thought that it was an interesting choice to select Megyn Kelly as the person to interview her, and what many thought was going to be an explosive interview. The interview takeaway as a whole was that there wasn't much information that she provided that hasn't been provided before. I think that Megyn was trying to humanize Tara Reade as much as she possibly could, but there are still some pretty gaping holes in Tara Reade's story. The lack of sufficient corroboration, the fact that we are to believe that someone would assault you in the middle of a hallway in one of the halls of Congress. There's just a lot going on there that just doesn't seem feasible at all.
And Sebastian, just your general takeaway from the interview. Very high profile, got a lot of reach, a lot of people saw that. What was your takeaway?
I'm a little bit shocked by what Amisha Cross said, a lack of corroboration. In comparison to Blasey Ford, there is 1,000 times more corroboration. We have a person who can tell you when it happened, where it happened, who told people around her contemporaneously when the rape occurred. So, let's have this investigated by professionals. Megyn Kelly is not an EEO officer. Let's have this run the course. And now we know that Biden was also arrested in college because he made his way into a female dorm or a female changing room. No charges were brought, but every day seems to bring more and more evidence that there is not only smoke, but there is a fire when it comes to Biden's inappropriate behavior with women for decades.
So, allow me, Amisha, to roll another soundbite, and this is where Tara Reade, Megyn Kelly asked her, why didn't more people recall this if she told as many people as she had? Take a listen.
You've claimed that you complained to 3 people in Joe Biden's office at the time about the harassment, not the assault. They have all vehemently denied it. Marianne Baker, your direct report says such a complaint, quote, would have left a searing impression on me as a woman, professional, and as a manager. It didn't happen. Ted Kaufman says she did not come to me. If she had, I would have remembered her. A similar denial from Dennis Toner. These are pretty emphatic. Your reaction?
Well, you have to look at the source. I mean, they're still working with Biden, so they're not just Biden staffers or former. They're with him, except I think Marianne Baker's now retired.
So what about that, Amisha? The people who are pushed back are actually still working for Biden or are still in contact with the Biden campaign?
The most emphatic denial came from her actual, her higher-up, her first report, who no longer works with the Biden campaign. The other thing that is very interesting here is that going on through that interview, we know that Tara Reade supported Biden in 2008. She supported him again in 2012. She supported him up until about 2017, actually tweeting about and praising his work for women's rights, specifically against sexual violence. If a woman has been sexually abused or has been sexually assaulted, she typically does not throw her emphatic support behind her sexual abuser, particularly in terms of his work in the sexual violence standpoint. That's really confusing.
All right, Sebastian, we want to roll one more soundbite, let you react to it. Take a listen.
Some people have hit you for this, saying you kept virtually every record from your 92-93 stint in Biden's office. Why would you not keep the one form that alleged harassment or retaliation?
Actually, I didn't keep very much from that time. I don't even have pictures really from that time. I think I just have a few things.
Did you even think to get a copy or to try to get a copy?
I thought they were going to call me for an appointment, so I was just I just thought it would be, I didn't know I was going to be fired at that time.
Go ahead, Sebastian, weigh in on that one.
Look, I have no capacity to put myself in the position of a woman who's been sexually assaulted or raped. But I find it appalling that people like Amisha Cross no longer believe the women. What happened to the Me Too movement? I think Joe Biden single-handedly has killed the Me Too movement. We were told for years and years and years, especially around Kavanaugh, that you must believe the women. I guess it doesn't matter if the raper, if the rapist is a Democrat, we don't believe the women anymore. It just shows you the rank hypocrisy of the Democrats. Everything is about politics and about expediency, and you can jettison people, even women, who say that they have been raped if they are not politically expedient.
I got about 10 seconds, Amisha. Final thought?
Final thought, allegation does not equal rape. And as somebody who is African-American, there are a lot of African-Americans who have been accused of rape and abuse and hung in this country. Absolutely did not rape anyone. So no, I do not believe women straight out without an investigation.
So you were there. Were you there in the hallway, Amisha? I guess you were.
All right. Guys, I got to leave it right there. Again, like, you know, this is a heated topic and will be for the next 6 months going into that election. Amisha Cross, Sebastian Gorka, thank you so much. Next, Dr. Nicole Saphier is back to answer your questions when it comes to kids and the coronavirus. This week, many colleges across America will graduate their seniors. The pictures of young men and women going out into the community as adults is awesome and inspiring. Many of you may not know this. A little over 2 years ago, I lost my son to an accidental opioid overdose while he was a sophomore at University of Colorado at Boulder. Eric Chase took what he thought was a real Xanax, but it was actually a Chinese knockoff laced with fentanyl. He died in his sleep. Eric Chase was in the class of 2020 and would have graduated this week. Well, since that tragic day, I've devoted 100% of my personal time to creating awareness of the opioid epidemic in America. Thanks to Sinclair, I've toured America and delivered 14 town halls across the country. The First Lady joined me on a few, the Surgeon General, and many top administration officials, as well as celebrities and other heroes have helped out as well. I've coined a phrase that sums it up: one pill can kill. So if you care to, I'd like to offer you a place to join me in that fight, or just hang out with me. My new website is ericbolling.com. There's pictures and videos up there now, and tons more will be loaded onto the site daily. ericbolling.com. Again, the website is new, but we'll be adding new content constantly, so please join me.
United we stand, we never fall. This perilous fight, it takes one and all. Everyone stands, American strong. Strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time. We stand American.
continue to bring your questions directly to the experts. Dr. Nicole Saphier has been with us quite a bit. She's been with us through this whole COVID-19. She just released her new book, Make America Healthy Again. She's back with us. Doctor, thank you for being here. Let's get right to the questions. People love these questions. Bob Hackett on Facebook asks, if it's true that children seem to have, let's say, no bad reactions to the virus, why do they keep the schools closed? I want to get to the Kawasaki thing going on in New York specifically, but just tell us, is it overreacting to keep schools closed, given the fact that children seem to not get COVID-19 as readily, easily as adults and older people?
Well, I think in the very beginning, it was a wise move to probably shut down schools because we didn't know much about the novel coronavirus. Now that we're a couple months into it, we do have a lot more information, and it does seem, thankfully, that children are faring much better when it comes to this, as opposed to prior pandemics, which targeted children and older people. It does seem the far majority of children are asymptomatic, if any mild symptoms. That being said, yes, there have been a couple of childhood deaths, but the whole purpose of shutting down schools was to really get us some information while we're trying to figure out about the virus. We do know that there is a wide range of asymptomatic spread. About 25 to 50% of people infected are asymptomatic. So in the United States, we have a lot of multi-generational homes, specifically in Black and Hispanic communities. So if the children are congregating and, they tend to be a little less sanitary than the rest of us, are they bringing back that virus to someone who may be more vulnerable in their homes? That is what really prompted these school closures. I think moving forward, it is in the best interest of children to open schools smartly. Yes, we have to make sure that we protect our vulnerable, especially if we have children living in such multi-generational homes. But the long-term consequences of keeping children out of school and not having that social interaction will likely far outweigh that of any of the virus. So I think moving forward, it'll be very important to maybe have some measures in place where they are restricting how many kids are in a classroom, making sure that they increase their sanitation efforts. But I do think at this point, moving forward, schools should definitely consider reopening, specifically in the fall.
Doctor, can you weigh in on what this new phenomenon seems to be, the Kawasaki look-alike disease that some children have unfortunately died from? It looks like a skin rash. It looks like an aggressive skin rash. What is it that's happening? And is it a result of COVID-19 or kind of an offshoot of COVID-19?
Well, Eric, as a mother of three, of course, I'm keeping a very close eye on this. I am concerned about it. We have about 100 reported cases in the New York area with about 5 deaths at this point. And what's interesting is these are all children that were exposed to the virus about 4 to 6 weeks ago. So they're thinking that this is some sort of inflammatory immune response in a delayed fashion. This Kawasaki-like illness, Kawasaki's disease is a very rare disease, but one that we do know about, tends to be in children 5 or under. What children are presenting with right now are prolonged fevers, rash, red eyes, stomach pains, vomiting, diarrhea. Right now, they're calling it pediatric multisystem inflammatory syndrome associated with COVID-19. We really don't know a lot about it, but there are reported cases throughout our country as well as in other countries such as the UK and Spain. The good news is, Eric, it still is the far minority of cases, the far minority of people who get infected seem to be presenting with this, and also they are having great success in treating these cases with IV immunoglobulin therapy, which is what they use for Kawasaki syndrome. But there are some long-term consequences of this illness, specifically heart disease, even aneurysm. So we really need to keep a close eye on this to see if children maybe are not going, as asymptomatic or unaffected as we were originally hoping for. This will make a difference when it comes to these decisions about reopening schools and how we look at this as a whole.
Right. Very quickly, Doctor, thank you. John on Facebook says, and I only have about half a minute or so, they say UV rays kill COVID-19. So radiation from an X-ray, will that kill COVID-19? I'm not really sure that's an accurate way of treating, but tell us about radiation from X-rays.
Well, UV radiation and X-rays are 2 very different types of radiation, but if the virus does get killed by UV rays, it's possible it would by X-rays as well. However, X-rays can also cause skin damage as well as cancer. So no, I wouldn't hope that. I would want to make sure that people aren't treating themselves with any form of X-rays in an attempt to ward off this virus.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely true, Doctor. Thank you for joining us again. Nicole Sapphire, Make America Healthy Again. Go out and get that book. This is one smart doctor. We're fortunate to have you. Thank you, Nicole. Ahead on America This Week, I'm talking with Paris Dennard, the new Senior Communications Advisor of Black Media Affairs. Stay with us.
United we stand, we never fall. This perilous fight, it takes one and all. Everyone stands, American strong. Strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time. We stand, America. United we stand. We stand, America. United we stand. Ready to help, ready to serve. It takes everyone with steady nerves. Everyone stands, American strong. Strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time. We stand, America. United we stand. We stand, America strong. City by city, state by state, town by town, stand American great. Everyone stands American strong. When strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time. We stand America. United we stand. We stand America. United we stand.
Paris Dennard is the RNC's new Senior Communications Advisor for Black Media Affairs. Paris, thank you so much for joining us here. You know, there's a lot of, let's call it race in the news lately with Georgia and the vigilante justice going on down there. President Trump typically has done very well with the African-American vote, with minority vote. Tell us where he is, state of affairs with the campaign with President Trump with minorities, sir.
Well, first of all, we've heard the president speak very eloquently about the situation in Georgia. He has talked about how tragic it is and how his heart goes out to the family and friends of the young man who was Ahmed, who was murdered down there in Georgia. And he's asked for justice to be served, and that's what we believe is going to happen. When you look at what President Trump has done in terms of promises made and promises kept for the Black community, starting from 2016, when he actively tried to earn the vote from the Black community, he never stopped trying to do that through specific policies, promises made, promises kept during his presidency, looking at criminal justice reform, the economy, as well as other things like supporting HBCUs in an unprecedented fashion. But moving into where we are today with COVID-19 and its disproportionate impact on the Black community, this president and this administration is working aggressively to meet the demand in inner cities and really help.
Allow me to jump in here. I'm sorry I don't have a ton of time. I wanted to get to something. You know, in 2016, President Trump came up with a line. I think it just blew everyone away and really kind of solidified his Black vote, at least. He said, "What have you got to lose?" And that really hit home with a lot of African Americans, hit home with everyone else, too, covering it. Is there another what have you got to lose moment in President Trump, his reelection 2020 campaign?
I do think so. I think it's the fact that he has kept his promises, and he's kept his promises on every metric. He's kept his promises to the Black community to support HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities, like never before, including signing legislation that permanent funding for HBCUs of billions of dollars. When you look at what he's done for criminal justice reform and opportunity zones, and right now, even in COVID-19, the president has continued to deliver for the Black community in the face of criticism and false narratives. The president is focused on engaging with the Black community, and that's what we see at Black Voices for Trump at the campaign and the efforts of the RNC as well with the Lead Right Initiative and the Trump Victory Leadership Institute. We are aggressively going after the vote based upon what the president has done and what he's going to do for 4 more years.
All right, we're going to leave it right there, Paris Dennard. We appreciate your time, and you will check in with us as we get closer to that election. 6 months out, folks, already. 6 months away from the 2020 election, presidential election, man. It is just fast approaching. Everyone, Paris Dennard, thank you. Every week we honor first responders who died in the line of duty protecting our great country. Lieutenant Glenn Hutto was shot and killed last month during a homicide investigation. The lieutenant was with the Baton Rouge, Louisiana Police Department for 21 years. His obituary said he was a husband, a father, a son, and a man of God. Rest in peace, officer.
United we stand, we never fall. This perilous fight, it takes one and all. Everyone stands, American strong. Strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time. We stand, America. United we stand. We stand, America. United we stand. Ready to help, ready to serve. It takes everyone with steady nerves. Everyone stands, American strong. Strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time. We stand, America. United we stand. We stand, American strong. City by city, state by state, town by town, stand American great. Everyone stands American strong. When strength by one equals strength by all. American values, American pride. Your neighbor needs you, each person, each time. We stand America. United we stand. We stand America. United we stand.
America This Week, America's fastest growing political show, points out how rough and tumble politics shape opinion in every region in our country. We tell American stories, stories that touch our people, determine our politics, focus on the future of America.
I'm Eric Bolling. Join me for a fascinating look at America this week. Recently, I had the chance to talk with Henry Olsen. He's a conservative columnist with the Washington Post. We discussed the president's poll numbers and whether we can trust those numbers. Take a listen. I had seen that you wrote an opinion piece saying that his numbers were falling. He was falling behind. But we've just heard recently Reuters had a new poll out saying the opposite was happening. Now, looks like Trump was, most of these national polls had Biden ahead, but they did have Hillary Clinton ahead in 2016 anyway. But Trump is eating away at the Biden lead. What are your thoughts?
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if Trump bounced back. He was having a bad week or so with respect to how the press was treating him, and that can affect the poll results. The president's challenge is to get up to about 46 or 47% in the polls. If he can do that, he can win the Electoral College, and there's no reason he can't do that.
Henry, let's talk about this a little. I'm glad we're delving into it. I'm feeling the need to get back in. And it is COVID-related because his likely will win or lose based on his COVID response. But again, national polls are historically horrible. They don't seem to ever be right.
Well, I think what happened in 2016 was that the polls were on track, but they only record what happens at a particular moment. And there were a lot of people who were uncomfortable with Hillary Clinton, who thought they would throw their vote away by voting third party or skipping altogether. And they decided over the last weekend that they were going to vote for Donald Trump. That's why my prediction was extremely accurate, because I accounted for that, whereas Nate Silver and others did not. And that's how you should read the polls, as a snapshot in time, but use your political analysis and your political knowledge to look at it. And that's why I think there's a lot more upside for President Trump than a lot of the pundits are giving him.
Yeah, I agree with you on that part. The first part, I vehemently disagree with you, Henry. I don't think anyone got it right in 2016. I watched New York Times night of the election having an 82% or 90% likelihood that Hillary was going to be the next president going into 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening on the East Coast. I've historically said, stop looking at polls, look at the people. And the people were telling me in 2016 that the polls were completely wrong. Right now, I don't know where we are. I can't get a sense of where the people are yet because of this virus. I think in the next couple of months, we'll get a better idea of how they feel about President Trump's handling of the virus. And I think that's going to be way more important than what any national poll has to say, Reuters or NBC or Washington Post or anyone else. Those typically aren't accurate. State polls, I'll give you a little bit more credit on state polls. Sometimes you can do it. And if you want to take it swing state by swing state, you can likely get a better judge of how the president is doing that way.
Yeah, I think that the president's got a lot of upside, that the economy's going to get better. If the economy gets better, even if it's still bad, if it's getting better, and it looks like people aren't getting sicker, they're going to give him a lot of credit for it. So I take a look at what's going on right now. It's kind of like it's hard for him to get too much further behind than he is, and there's a lot of room for him to grow. And then people have to start looking at Joe Biden. And during the crisis, they haven't been doing that. But in the campaign, they will. And believe me, there will be a campaign, and people will have to make a choice, Biden or Trump. And that choice also helps Trump.
You know, honestly, Henry, what I'm really looking forward to is those debates. You know, at first they thought, 3 was going to be too much. Now I'm hoping for 3 a week because I can't wait to see Donald Trump and Joe Biden going at it on the stage. Henry, we're going to say thank you. Henry Olsen, Washington Post columnist. Appreciate your time again. Thank you, Henry. And before we go, here's something that caught the attention of America this week.
I think I blacked out because I honestly don't really remember the exact moment how I noticed that I had royally messed up this haircut.
That was Kelsey Smith from New York State talking about her at-home handiwork while cutting her husband's hair. And she's not alone. Our Sinclair affiliate, WHAM, found several others who accidentally cut off a little more than they could chew, so to speak. Just remember, it will grow back. Yet another reminder to maybe leave the haircuts to the professionals. Thanks for joining me for another America This Week. And special thanks to Stars and Strikes for hosting me. Hopefully all their locations will be back up and running like normal. The kids will need something to do this summer. And hey, maybe, just maybe, I've come up with a new show, Bowling with Bolling. There you go. All right, don't use that one.